Hello, I'm Bilal from Team 4583X. This is our regional robot, or well, late season robot. We run a 6 motor, 360 RPM, 3.25 drivetrain with 3 points of bracing, all 3 high strength axles. We took inspiration from Robocause for that. The high strength axle, it's very good at reducing torsion and just makes the robot not need a lot of bracing. We only have those 3 points of bracing and then like 2 others. But it does add on a lot of weight. So I would recommend using at least 2, not like 3. Moving to our ratcheted slapper intake hybrid thing. It's 2 motors, 3 to 5, so that's 200, 3 to 5, that's 120 RPM on this single axle here, and then from here it's I think 24 to 72, so that's 40 RPM for the slapper portion. We have this little mounting point that was made for our slapper. It's honestly pretty good. It's not that bad, and especially for placement. I can just easily place it like that and move on. We made that for skills. We didn't really use our slapper for matches ever. Moving on to the intake portion, we have a simple one-way ratchet right here. This huge portion took up a ton of time, also weighs quite a bit. For future robots, if you are planning to do something like this, I would recommend not doing it. So it's a 3 to 5, that's 120, and then we have a one-way ratchet, like I said beforehand, that is right here. Uses a simple 24 tooth, if I could find a space where you can see it, right here. The 24 tooth right there that we just have this thing ratcheted around. And it works pretty well, considering how our intake never burnt out ever. And if I were to outtake, it fires our cata, so it's pretty good. Going to the chain portion, it's just 40 tooth sprocket to 8 tooth, then from 32 to 24, and all of that is just 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. So that's a total of 800 RPM. All of it is 6P chain, so it really never broke ever. I didn't really like making a variable tensioner. That took a lot of time for me to do so. So instead I just made it go from this point here to this screw joint, these screw joints, and then from there to here, and then geared that. For this portion of the intake, this gear right here is actually a high strength gear, but was shaved down to act like a thin gear, so that way we could save space and just have a wide rubber banded intake. For our rubber band portion of the intake, this was honestly, it fell apart at regionals and I had to put it back together really quickly in between matches. This is just a simple 6-piece sprocket that we just put rubber bands around. It's like, I think there's, a total of like 7 bands on there. Moving on from there to our wings. We have 4 wings, so 1, 2, and then 2 verticals. These wings were not very bad. They were honestly really helpful. This wedge here honestly helped with pushing tri-balls over the barrier. They weren't that bad. We originally did a locking wing mech, and honestly, that wasn't the very best decision. It didn't really work all that well. Plus, it was contacting our wheel, which wasn't very good. We originally had, with our first robot anyways, we had vertical wings. These were honestly really good for skills. Other than that, They really weren't any other help. they were okay. I didn't use them as I probably should have, especially during qualification matches. But they're very, very viable. They're very good. Now on to plexi or polycarbonate. Not a lot. I made these little wedges, potato wedges, I guess, for our intake. These are made out of HDPE, which is a very durable material, but is not very good when impacted since it bends easily. And you can tell that after like however many slams into the goal, it'll start to bend and crease. Then we have these wedges over here, or not wedges, sorry, sleds over here. These were honestly really good, and you can see just from me hand pushing it, it doesn't really require a lot of force, just to like nudge it up slightly. These are secured, let me just do this. These are secured with a single screw going through here. I'm not sure if you can tell, but a single screw going through here, and then it's just pinched between two nylock nuts. And that's for 4 of the screws. For the other screws, this is just a simple, I think, a small screw, like a little bit bigger than, I think, 0.25 of an inch, a little bit smaller than 0.25 of an inch of a screw, and then it goes all the way to a locking collar, and then it's 2 washers, this Lex end piece, and then a washer here to keep the screw in place. For this brace point here, to keep this thing from bowing out when we cross over the barrier, we have just a simple standoff right here that's secured with a locking collar on this end and just screw in that end. It's bent, so that way we can just have a straight single standoff instead of like having 2 going one this way and one this way. For our other poly, or HDPE, we have this massive back wedge back here. This was really helpful for Auton when it worked. The Auton would ram into the side of the goal, and this wedge helped push it in because it's just a flat surface. But I added a brace bar back here last second, so that way it wouldn't have any issues pushing it back in. And as you can see, sometimes our Auton failed and would ram into the goalpost, causing this portion to just bend easily. For our hang portion, we didn't really have a hang, but instead we had a part. The part honestly wasn't all that bad since it just required me to do this and then push up. We needed to shoot off all 4 wings so that way we could get we could have our vertical wings pushed down, and then our horizontal wing touch the elevation pole over here. So that way we're always contacting it. When we're low on air though, we have a lower chance of actually getting a successful park since it's going to be more close to the ground, which is honestly what happened in our semifinals match against 5013X and 6865D. For our brain placement, our brain is honestly just placed right here. It's on a Lex end plate that's just zip tied to the high strength axles. It was honestly worked pretty well for us, but we didn't have any other places for it, so it kind of just needed to go there. Battery placement, that's also just a scuffed. That's just like right over the brain, but we have these rubber links with rubber bumpers on them to secure it in place. Our reservoirs are over here. Like I said beforehand, because we just didn't have any space to put anything, I put them over here on the intake. This honestly helped with our CG since I can just put the robot over here, and then all it needed to do to just hang sometimes was just clip between the high strength axle and the traction wheel if I can get it. Okay. Yeah, never mind. No hang because just this entire intake module just took up the whole space. That's it for our robot. Thank you.